Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our Global BA Stand Up. I'm about to join the meeting. I think I'm live before I join the meeting. So let me go join the meeting and then we can all get the party started. Let's get over here. Let's go over here. Let's join over here. The trick would be if I can actually share my screen on the live. That would be absolutely amazing. All right, let's see what we got. Oh, a bunch of people are already waiting on me. All right, let me quickly get up to speed here and get my background right. Um, Here we go. Well, hello everyone. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Can y'all hear me and see me well? Can everybody hear me? I gotta bring it. You know what I'm saying? I gotta bring it. Well, thank you. All right. So I have some people on the YouTube live, on the Facebook live, and unfortunately, I have not been able to get into the Instagram. I'm just gonna give up on Instagram for now. It's just too much hassle to try to get that in. But yeah, let's see. A lot of people probably are on the other meeting, which is on Zoom, and we definitely want them over here. So let me see. Joshua, can you go check if anybody's over on the other side and just give them the link to this meeting so that we can all be on one place? I switched from Zoom to Google Meet, so it's the first time we're moving over to here. So there might be a lot of confusion getting people to have the right meeting link. So we'll give them a minute to do that. But while we're waiting on them, where's everybody from? Put in the chat where y'all are from, where y'all are watching me from. On the YouTube and Facebook, I see a few people joining. Randy, Nibley, E. Mordy, Ugo Chukwu. Welcome, everybody. Excited to see y'all here. All right. So just waiting a little bit for a few more people to join, and then we're going to get started. So if this is the first time you're joining us, yeah, this person, Nokola, says she's from the UK. Welcome. Nice. Thank you. Jenny's from Canada. Thank you, Jen, for joining us. Awesome. Kenya. Yeah, Joshua. Welcome, Joshua from Kenya. Thank you. All right. It's your first time, Nola says. Thank you so much. Normally we have a lot more people. A lot more people have signed up, so I'm very surprised we don't have as much people in here as we have who signed up. Just give them a minute, see if they'll join. Yorkshire, UK. That's what Tiga says. Nice. Houston, Canada. More Canadians in the room. That's great. Awesome. All right. So welcome all. I'm very happy to have you here. We do this every month. On the first Monday of every month, we meet and we discuss business analysis topics. We help you to kind of have a place to clarify any questions that you have and to get you started if you haven't been started yet, or if you've started the role but you're like kind of disheveled and not sure exactly what the technique is. We can help you with some of those questions. It's a great way for us to meet once a month to kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And you can always pick my brain on anything that you need to know about the BA role. So normally when we have these meetings, we do them like a regular stand-up. So if you guys are exposed to Agile, you know that we do have a daily stand-up in the Agile process. And that stand-up is to give the developers and the core team, the UX designers, the Scrum Masters, the chance to hear if there's any blockers or any issues that they're having as they're in the development cycle, so that you can solve it and they don't have to sit with that problem for the rest of the day, right? So it's a daily stand-up, which is normally 15 minutes. But in our case, we're doing the global BA stand-up. So it's going to be 1 hour and it's just BA stuff, right? So that's the thought behind having this. All right, so I'm going to start. Normally I start off with the people who are in the job market. So how many of you are in the job market, still looking to break into the field? And what are the blockers or what are the issues that you have as you're job hunting that I could probably help you with? So anybody in here has been interviewing or has been applying? Anybody here have any issues in terms of trying to land a job? I know it's difficult, right? So if the question is, hey, I'm not getting calls, I know that, right? A lot of people have been applying. A lot of people have struggled with their resumes and they're sending out tons of resumes, lots of volume, and they're not getting as much calls. The market is tough, but you just have to be the best. What I've found is because the employers have so many choices now, because everybody's looking for a job, they can wait, right? They can pick the best from the lot. So you have to bring it. Your best work cannot be a light pack, okay? You got to get out there and bring your best foot forward to make sure that you are in the top. So that's one of the things. So let me open the floor up to anybody who wants to comment or leave any questions around the job hunt for them to get into the BA role. Anybody here want to start us off? Everybody shy? Anybody have any interviews that you've done recently that you want to share? Y'all a quiet bunch today. Very quiet bunch. Go ahead, Nicolo. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I mean, I think it does help that you have domain experience, but I don't think that you'll be um like there. Right, but you also have to know how to job hunt, right? So part of it is if they're insisting that you have insurance experience and you don't have insurance experience, you just have to move on from that job, right? Because they're going to ask you insurance specific questions that you're not going to be able to answer. Whereas there's plenty of other jobs that are generalist BA, or since you have a finance background, you can target banking, you can target fintech, you can target places where having a finance background would be helpful, right? So you just have to be more strategic about the jobs that you're applying for, and don't be bogged down and feel bad if the jobs that you want, they have this and I don't have it. There's other jobs, right? You have to pick the jobs where you're most likely to be successful. If you're applying for jobs where you don't have some of this background that they're asking for, you end up getting this anxiety and starting to feel bad, like, oh my God, I'm trying all of these different things, it's not working. I have seen people, physically seen them with my eyes, just apply whichever job that is out there. I've seen people who are so frantic about getting a job that they're a BA and they're applying for a developer role. Like literally being asked to write API code. And I'm like, you couldn't do the job if you even got it. So, and then they complain to me, Kylie, I'm not getting any jobs. But what are you applying for? You have to apply apply where your skills can actually match. It's not a numbers game that just applied to everyone. I'm not saying you're doing that, no. I'm just giving you an example. It's just that we have to be strategic about the job we apply for. And when you read the job description, you're like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Now, sometimes if they're insisting on like a particular industry, sometimes they'll even put it and say this is preferred. Like we prefer somebody from insurance, we prefer somebody from healthcare. A preference is a preference. It don't mean that if you come in and you don't have that, they're not willing to take a chance on you, right? So wherever they say preferences, don't exclude yourself. But if they specifically say it's a must-have and you need to have this to be even considered, then you're wasting your time there because you end up getting frustrated, right? All right, on the live, we have a few people who have some thoughts around this. I have, I think it's Randy. Randy saying, they have a question about process flow. We're not going to do that yet. We're going to talk about interviews first. So let's go to Joseph. Joseph says, hello, Carly's. Not getting the calls after submitting my CV. Lots of rejections and no call back. But I got a volunteering BA role. Well, if you can volunteer as a BA, you can do that to start. Don't do that too long because you need money, right? We're not here to get our education and to give away all of our knowledge for free, okay? You just want to get an exposure to what the world of work looks like. And once you get exposed, maybe 3 months, you move on, get your job so you can get paid. Now, if you are submitting your CV and you're not getting any calls, so it's two things. You say you have rejections, but then you say you have no calls. So it's kind of weird. Maybe they're sending you the rejection via email. I don't know. But it might be the CV. I say this in all of the stand-ups that it might be the CV that's costing you the call, because what are you putting on these CVs? I've seen some and I've been like, are you sending this out to people? Really? And some of these CVs use Chat GPT. Some people have actually hired CV writers for them and they've gotten it looking really nice and professional. But the formatting is nice and professional. But as a BA, when you're reading through it, you're like, but this don't make no sense. Meaning, I've seen CVs that are well formatted, looks really good. I'm like, ooh, this is nice. Let's see what this person can do. But as you read into the bullets, you realize the person doesn't know what they're talking about, because they'll claim things like being the project manager, managing the budget, managing the architecture, managing the team, writing the stories, working on the deployment. And you're like, there is no way in hell you are doing all of that on the project. There's no way. So it just gives you away and tells people that you don't know, you just copy and paste from somewhere. So sometimes the CV can really expose you. So you got to be very careful about what you put on the CV. Normally you have like 6 seconds where the recruiter actually reads it before they actually start putting you through the process. And then they'll read it further if you get further into the interview process. So you got to make the very first things you put on the CV very impactful so that people can be intrigued to give you a call to see, to talk to you, to see what you're really made of, right? So if you're not getting calls, the CV is a problem. And then Tara says she can't join the link from the calendar. Oh, all right. Let's put the link. Sorry, guys. Let me just get the link for someone who's trying to join. Here's the link for anybody who's still trying to join and having trouble. You need to sign up here. And once you sign up, I'll put it in the chat here too. Once you sign up, then you will be able to join the actual meeting. All right, for people on the live. All right. Anybody else who's on the meeting now who want to talk about? I think Jeff has his hand up. Go ahead, Jeff. What do you want to say? I'm good. How are you? Good. Thank you. Oh, very good. Thank you, Jeff. Sorry, you're having trouble with what? Say it again. Yeah, the storytelling is the most impactful thing to do, but it's also the hardest thing to master. I like to tell people to do the STAR method. And if you do my consult, I teach you another one, which is TARC with a C at the end. But you need to craft stories that are not too high level, because this point of the story is to help them to see you in a different light. They want to see you in the role, see what you do in this situation. When they ask you, tell me about a time when you had a difficult stakeholder, or tell me about a time when you failed. They want to hear from you how you approach things, your mindset, things that they can't get when they ask you a one open, like a one-off question. So in your storytelling, you obviously have to lead them down the path, right? So you got to give them an opening. I was working here. I had this experience. We are trying to do this project. We had this problem. And then how did you individually solve it? Nobody wants to hear how your team came together and helped you. They want to hear how you, with your tenacity, your creativity, your consistency, all of these good qualities that you want them to pull from you, they want to hear how you actually apply those things to solve the problem. And all of your problems need to end well. All of your stories end well and show the qualities that you want them to draw from your story, right? So craft stories where there is enough detail for them to really engage with the story, but not get lost in it. Because what I find is most people do the opposite and they give too much of a high level story. It's so fluffy that nobody can make sense of it. I had a problem working on this project. We couldn't get the requirements. I was eventually able to meet with the stakeholders and get the requirements, and we're able to deliver the project on time. What have you said? You've said nothing. So you need to pull in stories that have a little bit more detail so they can really believe that you did this and you came out, successful. So it's just crafting the stories that pull from and if you don't have experience, you can pull from your case studies. You can pull from your capstone project from your courses. You have to have stories where you're solving problems and you can show them how you're solving the problem, right? Um, the thing about putting statistics, so they always tell you, and some of the advice you get online is not always good. They'll tell you that when you're doing looking for a job in your resume, you need to put like results, right? Statistics, numbers, and they'll try to tell you to do that um, in your storytelling as well. The challenge I have is in the real world, we don't really quantify some of what we do, and it's not always attributable to you. If the project was successful and we launched on time, that sometimes is all we can say, right? Like it's difficult to say, and then we were able to achieve 50% increase in the gross profit for the year and tie all of that back to you being the great BA that you are. It's difficult to pull that connection. So I typically would say stay away from numbers that you can't defend. Yeah, if you're not able to qualify and say this is how my individual contribution led to this end result, and other people can claim the same result, I would typically stay away from it because it starts to become a stretch. In the CV, if you're putting values that you can defend, that you can say my contribution directly led to this, then fine. But as a BA, we typically don't have that number. we all we can say is how well we help them get the project off to production, or how we help the process the process to be improved. But we typically don't have like a quantifiable number that we can prove, unless you're doing like data analysis where you're doing like reporting. But if you're doing like software development projects, process improvement projects, if you can find a statistic that makes sense, put it in there. But what I don't want is for you to just add fluffy statistics that distract from actually what you're doing. And then when they ask you a question in the interview, you're stuck trying to defend that. I find it to be a little bit too fluffy, and it starts to send a red flag to the interviewers. I would say if you can't defend it, leave it out. If you can't defend it, leave it out. Yeah. No, my resume typically ends with things like how I helped the project to be successful, how I've helped the team to be able to get the right requirements, how I've helped the communication to the leadership team, how I've helped them to elicit the right requirements and the techniques that I use, the workshops, the stakeholder interviews, like the core business analyst thing that I've done to enable us to be successful. I don't have a bunch of statistics in there that I don't know if I can really claim that's my contribution to the project. See what I mean? All right. You're welcome. Cool. Anybody else have any question around job hunt? Let me see what y'all are talking about over here in the live. So Nova says she can't hear Jeff. That's weird. Looks like the people on the live can't hear the people who are on the meeting. I don't know how to solve that problem. Don't know how to solve that problem. Okay, I'll just repeat whatever the question is since y'all on the live can't hear it. Okay, so we have a question from Whitney. Whitney says, I was just going to ask if we have no prior experience, how to do that, but you answered that with educational experience. Yeah, thank you, Whitney. Yeah, if you don't have experience, then you just have to pull from what you have been working on, right? Which is your case studies and on your capstone projects. So Whitney also says, I'm currently going through the interview process for a BA position, and I had to construct a business analyst and proposal strategy for a current process, and I had to incorporate data analysis. Yeah. So it's a good point because as you go through the interview process, the employers are kind of onto people. So they have been burned by people who have elaborate resumes, and then when they get the job, they really can't perform. So what they're trying to do, much more so than before, is they're giving you a lot of case studies in the interview process to help to weed out the people who really don't know what they're talking about. So what they've done is they have given you case studies, and these case studies could be on the spot where you show up to the interview and then they throw the question at you and give you some time to fix, to solve it in the interview itself. Or they'll give it to you ahead of time and ask you to come back and present to a panel. And sometimes they'll give you a process improvement case study. It might be a business requirements document case study. It might be writing user stories case study. And in Whitney's case, she got to do a process and to do a proposal. So the ways that they're asking for different case studies have really changed, and they've become much more versatile in the kinds of questions they're asking you for in the interview process. All right. So if we don't have any more questions, then let's jump into the next topic. Do we have any more questions about interviewing before I move on? No? All right, great. So we'll move on to the next topic, which is what are the blockers for the people who are already having a job? If you're already working, maybe you just got your first job, congratulations, or you've been working in the field for a while, or let's say you're working in something else and you're transitioning and you've been able to transition. What blockers are you guys having? What issues are you having out there in the field right now? Anybody? So I'll read what some people in the chat are saying. Let's see. So let's go back to this one from Wooly. Wooly says, I have no prior experience in BA role, but I practiced law a few years. What is your best advice for me? So you want to transition from law to BA. I don't often see that, to be honest with you. I often see BA like, QA to BA or dev to BA or administrative work to BA. I often don't see law to BA. But the good thing is that as a lawyer, you're into the details, right? You're very much into, and if you haven't practiced as a lawyer yet, maybe just did law courses, that's also fine. But you would have been exposed to how to really investigate and get into details and draw conclusions and have interviews, like talk to people, find out what their stories are, make sense of it. So I think you have some of those core skills if you've done law before, and you just need like a foundation course to help you to connect to the BA world and to see what are the terms and jargons that we use. How do we apply these same kind of investigative skills and troubleshooting skills and documentation skills? And as a lawyer, you would be exposed to a lot of documentation, or if you've studied law, that is. So I think it's a good transition. I just don't see it very often. People tend to go down the lawyer route and stay down there because it's a very lucrative career also. But yeah, you can definitely make the transition. I would suggest that you would do a fundamentals course first, just to make sure you're getting in, you're getting the right techniques and tools that we use in the field. And then you do some case studies to make sure you can practice whatever you've learned. And then you can start looking for a job. I don't know if you have to do the certification to get a job, but it definitely helps. You can do the ECBA or the CBAP, and that will help you kind of cement what you've learned, but it's not a necessity to get a BA job for sure. Okay, here's a question from Janet. So I'm struggling to find a business analyst position with 3 years experience, but worked in between as an intern, management accountant. I don't think it's my CV. What advice, please? Okay, so you don't believe it's your CV. I don't know if that's true. A lot of times when you have like experience in another field, like for example, if you're in your case, you're into accounting, management accountant, what people don't realize is that when you do the CV with all of the years of experience and all the things that you've done, it still speaks to you as an accountant. So when they read it, they might still hear accountant things come up, whereas you need to be able to position yourself as a BA. Now, everybody knows I am totally against a bunch of lies on the resume. I am totally against it. I don't believe that you need to be inventing things, because I think you're cutting yourself off at the knees. Because when you invent stuff on the resume, what you now cannot do, like Jeff was talking about earlier, you can't pull good stories from your previous role because you didn't put your previous role on the resume. So I'm totally against it, but I am for tweaking the resume to represent the role you're going up for. So, for example, if you're in management accounting and you were working on reports and you were talking to customers and you're doing stakeholders, you can reword that and not say customers, say stakeholders. Say analysis as opposed to just creating reports, right? So you can use these words that we use in our terminology to represent what you did in your previous role. That's fine. But I'm just against totally inventing things that never happened and is completely off the chain, and or hiding. One of the things I find people like to do is also hide. They hide their real job that they had. Maybe some of you are immigrants, you are working back home, you hide the careers that you had back home and you only put the things that you've done in the country where you're at. But in so doing, you can't talk about any of your experiences back home, because now that wasn't even on the resume. So I don't think you should have to lie on your resume. I think you just need to tweak it and get your resume out there and start doing the things that I talk about all the time to get a new job. Naz says, I have been finding job market very difficult this year. I am struggling even with experience. What I'm finding, most jobs require subject matter expertise in the area, such as front office and so on. Please advise. I think this is something somebody asked about earlier about industry knowledge. Again, you just have to pick the jobs that you're able to get. You have to pick the jobs where you can have much more likelihood to get the job, as opposed to picking the more difficult one and then struggling down that road and getting discouraged and feeling bad and having anxiety. There's still good amount of jobs out there for generalist BA that you don't have to be a specialist in any of these specific industries. And I've helped many people to land jobs in these areas. So if you have any expertise, then look for that one where you will have the advantage. But if you don't have that expertise, let's say it's healthcare, you have no experience in healthcare, but then you're applying for a healthcare job and then you're saying, oh, it's so hard, because you're in the wrong lane. You got to get in the lane that you're comfortable in, that you can, and there's plenty of lanes. You just have to pick the right ones, all right? All right, so let's go back to the meeting. Sorry for the jumping around. Let's go back to the people who have a job. Is there anybody here who's working as a BA that have some blockers? Who have any blockers in the meeting today? Nobody have any blockers? I love this team. This team is awesome. Nobody having any blockers. Okay, y'all are very quiet today. That's great. And in the chat, I see a lot of people who are like adding examples. So that's great, guys. Keep up the chat. That's very cool. All right, who's raised their hand? Go ahead, Valerie. Valerie, go ahead. I'll have to repeat what you say for the people on the live who are not hearing the meeting. Valerie, we can't hear you. You're still on mute. Okay. Valerie didn't, maybe she doesn't want to speak. All right, anybody here with a job? So nobody has a problem with a job. That's great. I'll tell you what my problem. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Valerie. Yeah, so for the people on the live, Valerie's asking, she just got a job as a BA and they're asking her to do more than the BA role. Like what, like, data analysis and other things. So what do you do if the role that you got employed for, they start asking you to do more, like you're wearing more hats? You just have to be careful of burnout. I mean, if the team is a small team and they need you to do additional things, that's fine. But one of the challenges I find is if you're not careful, the BA can become the kitchen sink. Like everything goes in there, right? So you have to kind of guard against doing too many things that distract you from the core work that you have to do, because nobody can help you do your job, but you can go out there and help other people. You have the PMs to work with them to get their project plans done. You'll help the developers to get clarity on the story. You'll help leadership with the communication, the documentation. You'll help the clients to make sure they have client facing documentation. But the requirement is your job and nobody coming to help you. So if you're so distracted doing all of these different things, what's going to happen is your core function may not get the attention it deserves, and you can be accused of not doing a good job as a BA. So whenever you have where they're like asking you to do multiple things, you have to ask for priority. I need to get the requirements in so that we can have the team have something to work on. This other thing, this data analysis thing, this QA testing thing, this other thing, if it's peripheral to what you're doing, then you need to ask whoever you're reporting to, what is the priority for me to get these things done? Because these ones are more core for what I do, and these additional things would be, I'm willing to help, but I just need to know how to prioritize my time. So find a professional way to make sure that you're not jeopardizing the actual role that you're responsible for while you're doing stuff for other teams. Does that make sense? All right, cool. Anybody else? See what y'all seeing over here in the live. So I see somebody talking about the insightful. So we have an insightful event every month also, where we go through a live, either a case study or a technique, and we walk through examples. And somebody here is saying they're not getting the insightful for the last one that we have. I think it's what, 4, and maybe Joshua, you're already helping out with that. If anybody's having issues, it might be because of the email that you have. Everybody who was in that session would have gotten the links to the recording by now. If you haven't used a Gmail, that might be the issue. But if you have, then you should already have the link. So just want to address that. All right. Anybody else? Any other issue with your current job? No, everybody's good. No problem. I'll tell you what my issue is at my current job. And as you guys know, I am a full-time business analyst, and I work in mainly consulting for the banking industry. My challenge is burnout. My challenge is burnout. I have so much on my plate that I feel like it occupies too much of my brain space. And so I'm very good at what I do, and I'm very helpful. So because you kind of get performance punishment when you're good, because you're good, then everybody wants you on their team. Everybody wants you to work on their project, and then they overload you with a lot of different things. So you end up just doing too much. So if you're good at what you do, you get punished because now you're the one they're choosing for all the projects, and that leads to a lot of burnout. So that's my challenge. One of the ways I've been able to help myself with this is, and again, I work from home, so I have a good setup here. I try to interject breaks. Like I force myself to have breaks in my calendar. If you ever see it, I have meetings starting at 8, and I have teams all over the world. I have teams in Poland, I have teams in India, I have teams in the US, and like everywhere. So everybody's at work at some point in the day in my actual job, right? So at any point in time, there's messages going back and forth on my Slack. There is questions going back and forth. And even though I turn the Slack off and I say, okay, this is my rest time, sometimes it just still comes through and you're like, ugh, like you want to give them the answer right now, because if they get the answer by the time you wake up, they can have a better solution for you, especially on the days when you have a demo to the client. So I have to mentally structure myself to remember that, look, this is just a job, right? You really have to disconnect. And when 5 o'clock, you need to just close your machine down and literally go outside, play with your dog, play with your daughter. In the mornings when I wake up very early. When I wake up in the mornings, I do Tai Chi. It's a Chinese thing I learned when I was in China. So I do Tai Chi outside. I try to get the sun in the morning in my backyard. I try to do it like barefoot on the grass so I can get, touch the earth. I'm doing all of these fancy stuff, right? To just ground myself before I start a very, very hectic day. And then when the day comes to an end, because I have meeting back to back to back to back to back, the problem with that is if I'm in meetings all day, then the work that comes out of the meeting still has to be done. So my challenge has been, yeah, you promise all these things in all of these meetings, but you don't get the time within the day to do them. and tomorrow you have the same thing. So you end up with a backlog of things that's piling up. So trying to fit in time, like I block out my lunchtime. I try to block out an hour for lunch so I can force myself to take lunch, and I block out time to just be focused. And they always put the meetings over the blackout time, but it's okay because I just ignore it. So my challenge is the balance. My challenge is trying to get everything done to meet all of my commitments, but not at the expense of my own, like my health and burnout and all of this extra time and just occupying my brain with so much work related stuff. So that's been my challenge, but I found that the things I've been doing have been helping. Just taking breaks, blocking out time, getting outside, taking the fresh air, all of that stuff has really helped me to be more successful. And hopefully, I did a live the other day about that. I hope maybe if anybody here is having the same challenge, they can they can find value in that. And it's also helpful for me too to have extracurricular things to do, right? So when I was with my friends, I do tennis. I like to play tennis a lot, so I go to the tennis club and we just bang it out over the weekend. I actually had a great weekend because I had a friend have we had like a cookout kind of, and we were actually playing the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake songs. And you should have seen your girl like rapping to all of the music and bobbing heads and learning how to crip walk. And so just finding opportunities to really relax in between all of the stressful work is actually good for your mental state and will help you to be more successful when you actually work in the field of the BA role. All right. So one person here, Onus or Ones, I'm not sure. Y'all let me know. She says, or he says, a blocker is as a new BA backlog prioritization. My organization doesn't have a product owner, so there's a hybrid agile, so I have to work on both. Yes. So in many situations, you may not have a product owner or a product manager. Sometimes you are it as a BA. And so you kind of have to understand what is most important. But you'll always have somebody else on the team. You'll have some manager somewhere, maybe not a product owner, but there's some CIO or somebody who can help you figure out what's the most important thing to do and give you sign off. So if you don't have a product owner to help you with the prioritization, and it's a hybrid agile, which means that you're doing waterfall and agile. So maybe you're doing Scrum, but there's lots of documentation. It's like a mix. Um, you would need to start leaning on the development team and also the whoever is above you to make sure you're working on the right things. And you don't want to be in a situation where you have everything needed to be done at once, right? Because again, it's hybrid, it's not really agile. So that will cause the burnout I just talked about. You don't want that. So what you'll do is sometimes you can just create the shell of the stories. Like if you're using a tool like Jira or DevOps, you can create what the stories should be, like the title of it. And then you can ask whoever is above you, hey, we have all of these things to work on. I haven't put the acceptance criteria in yet because I need to figure out which ones are the most prioritized first. What is the biggest thing that we need to solve first? And that could just be a 20-minute conversation with that person. Sit down with them, share your screen, show them the backlog, and say, we have this and this and this and this and this. I don't want to run down all of these rabbit holes at the same time. Let me put them in the order of priority so I can know which one I need to spend time on researching to get the right acceptance criteria. And once they can do that with you and give you that list, then that works. Now you put a meeting on their calendar as a recurring meeting to say every 2 weeks, we got to do this exercise because I need to make sure I'm constantly working on the next best thing. And that's how you force them to become a proxy product owner. You literally have to take somebody and make them your product owner. Go ahead. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I read it as honest. Honest. Well, let me know if it's right. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna repeat it for the people on the live who can't hear you. So she's saying that 90% of the tasks that she does is for supporting the backlog and the ongoing, BAU activities, and then 10% is for onboarding new clients, and that's where the prioritization gets tricky. But I would say if you have new clients, maybe you could um, set like a rule, across the board that says, okay, if it's a new client onboarding, that one needs to be the most prioritized because you need to get them up and running as fast as possible so they can, see value from the purchase that they made of your system or software or tool or whatever you're selling, right? So maybe it could be across the board where new client onboarding, which is only 10% of your tasks, those will always be the most prioritized. And then of that, the next 90% is just ongoing things. So we'll always put the new client first, and then we'll have the meeting around what are the other things that we need to do. So maybe you could use that as a rule, as a thumb that says, this is how we will work going forward, and get everybody to agree to that and get buying on that, and that's how you work going forward, right? All right, cool, 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 cool. All right, so that is our interviews. That's our. If anybody else have anything else around the current job, um, so I have a question here from Naz. And guys on the live, I'm sorry if I'm jumping around some of your questions. So Naz says, is there a difference between epic owner versus product owner? So guys, you gotta be accurate on your terms. There is nothing that I know of that's an epic owner, and we don't have that. We have business analysts, we have scrum masters, we have developers, we have architects, we have PMs, we have delivery managers, all of these roles, but we don't have anything called epic owner. Right? If you have that in your organization, that might be specific to your company that maybe you decided to organize, but it's not a thing in the BA world. But product owner is a thing. The product owner is the one who prioritizes the backlog, the one who has the final say in what we work on. And that could be a role, like this is a literal role, or it could be somebody who plays that role. So in the organization, the person's title is CIO, but on the Scrum team, they're occupying the function of a product owner. Or the person could be operations manager, and that's their, the employment title. But when they join the Scrum team, they operate as a product owner. So the product owner role is kind of in the Scrum team. We decide who is playing what role. It doesn't have to match one on one with what your actual title says when you get employed. See what I mean? So I hope that helps you. Um, so Tony says, I have a junior BA interview soon. Any advice for me? Thanks for all your videos. They help a lot. Yeah, watch more of my videos. That's the advice I have. Watch more of the videos, especially the one on the playlist on preparing for the interview. That will really help you to just know what kinds of questions to anticipate and how to navigate the answers. And then watch my videos on the case studies so you can practice how would you solve the problem if you are given this case study, right? So you can practice that. And I also encourage you guys, even the ones that are not free, I have some case studies on my website. The answers are free. It's like $15 for the answers. They're cheap. But the answers are paid, sorry, $15 for the answers. But the questions are free. So you could even just go look at the question. If you were given this question in an interview, how would you answer it? Look at the question and attempt it on your own. If you want to purchase this answer, fine. It's $15. If you don't want to purchase it, whatever. But practice, because these are the kind of questions that people are getting in the interview. Nothing on my site is made up. It's all from people who have done the interviews and sent me the questions, and I've been able to collate them over the years, right? So this is what they're asking you for in the real world. So if you really want to be ready for your interview, go do that. That's my advice for you. All right, cool. Tega has his hand up. Go ahead, Tega. All right, so for the people on the live, Tega is saying that he has challenge with the requirement solicitation, that there is no historical document for him to read. So how does he get the domain knowledge? How does he know how to conduct risk requirement solicitation in that scenario? It's a pity you weren't in my Insightful last month. That's what we talked about. In our last month, Insightful May 19th, we talked about how to elicit requirements and where to start, especially if you're new and you have no idea what you're doing. Like you get the job and you're like, good, I got the job. And now they give you a big project and you're like, I have no clue. And in your case, there may be no documents to read. So you have no documents, you're new to the job, you don't know the people, you don't want to ask questions and sound silly, and they expect you to deliver. That's a lot of pressure. What do you do? So we talked about how to think through that in the last Insightful, and it's available for purchase at $95. So you can get that. But the short answer I can give you without all of the details, because in the Insightful, we go through 3 projects and I walk you through if you are given these 3 projects with nothing, where would you start? How do you think through it? How do you make sure you're talking to the right people? How do you work through that? So that's what we did in the last Insightful. But the short of it is, if you have no documents to refer to, you have to pull it from people's heads. It's the knowledge is somewhere in the team. You just have to know what knowledge are you trying to get to. So the first thing we always start with is, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Why did they create this project? What does the project intend to solve? What is the end state? What is the success criteria the project is trying to reach? And then you work your way backward from there, and then you try to figure out, what's the problem we're solving? Are we even looking at the right problem? What do we do today? What is the as is state? Find out if there's no documentation, is there a tool? Can you get access to the tool? Can you log in and see what they're doing? Can you share a screen with somebody to show you how they move through the process? Can you get 15 minutes on somebody's calendar to talk to them about what it is that they do today? Can you pull all of that information together and create like a process flow? Okay, this is what they're doing now. This is their as is state. And then compare that with what they're trying to accomplish in the future. And then can you work through all of those different questions that you're going to have as you go through this process and try to get those answered? So it's great if you have documentation. That would be a great way to start. But if you don't, believe me, if they have to do this to make money for the company to exist, they're doing it some kind of way. They either have some Excel sheet somewhere, or they just in their heads. You have to get to it. Right? And so if you're new, it's a little intimidating because you don't know where to start. But you start with the simplest thing first. Just figure out what the project is about, what the problem is they're solving, and who are some of the people, the subject matter experts that you can talk with, that can walk you through not what you're going to do, but what they're doing already. The best place to start is, what are you doing today? And then you can work from there. Does that make sense? Hope it does. That's what we do. Yeah. All right, Tiga. Thank you. All right. Any other blockers? Anything else anybody want to add? Okay, go ahead. Error 4. Error 4. Yeah. Send your email to Joshua. I'm gonna put his email in here. Joshua@carolys.com. Joshua is my assistant for those who are new. Send your email to here so that we can get your email and I can go check to make sure you're on the list to be able to view the recording from last month's Insightful. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So those on the live, we just had a question around access to Insightful last month. All right. So I think we're good in terms of people who are either looking for interviews or people who are in the job. Is there anybody here who have any successes that they want to share? It could be a success where you got a new job. It could be a success where you were promoted. It could be a success where you were successful in your project and the project was completed and you felt like you went live and it was a good experience for you to go live on your first project, or anything that you guys have done that you think would be a success that happened over the last month or so that you want to share with the team. Any successes that we can share? I have a gong right here that I like to hit when people have success that we can celebrate with them. So give me a reason to hit my gong. Give me a reason to hit my gong. Anybody have any successes that they want to share? No successes this year? This month? What? Oh my goodness. Well, let me celebrate you guys for at least joining the Global BA stand up, and that would be a good reason to hit my gong. Can you guys see? I'm celebrating at least joining the BA stand up. Before I go, there's just one thing I have on the idea board. If you guys can see, let me. Oh, Valerie, Valerie, have something to add? And Jeff, okay, go ahead. Let's go with Valerie first. Okay, cool. So this question is from Valerie about AI and the BA role. AI, in my opinion, is coming for all of us, right? It's coming for all of us. The funny thing about AI, I find, is I don't think you should be afraid of it though. I don't think you need to be afraid of AI because it's another tool. It's another tool in your toolkit. What if the AI could help you write better user stories? What if the AI could help you like do some more, mind mapping? What if the AI could actually create the process flow for you? So I don't think you need to be afraid of it. I think it could be a useful tool to make us just be better creators. The thing about it is, as a BA, you're a thinker, right? You're an analyst. Like you're not a robotic person just doing steps and following the same steps every day. Every project will be different. Every analysis will be different. Your toolkit that you'll use to come up with the best solution will be different based on what you're trying to do for each project. So you're constantly reinventing yourself. You'll never really be bored in this role because you can't just plug what you did last time for another project into the next project, right? Everything is different. So you're always applying analysis skills. So if we can have more tools to help us make better analysis, I don't think we need to be afraid of it. I don't think it can replace us like that because we still have needs that only for now only humans can really see that nuance and really help with that nuance, right? So I don't think you need to be afraid of it, but I do think that there is, I'll just give you my experience. I found that companies are normally the last to adopt some of the newest technologies, meaning um, startups will adopt new things quickly. But if you're working like at a bank, you're working in insurance, you're working in healthcare, some of these companies, they don't want to adopt any new AI very quickly. So if you're in those bigger industries, you really have nothing to worry about. I know banks right now that they will not even allow you to record their meeting. So if you think you're going to join the meeting with your AI tool to take the notes, it's not going to work, right? So they're very reluctant to join any of these newer technologies because they want to make sure they can manage it and make sure it's not going to do anything wild and cause any losses and do anything weird. So I don't think we have to worry about that too much. But I do think AI is coming, and you'll find that I think the tasks that are more repetitive get automated out first. So if anything that needs to be done in a stepped way, like you do this step and then that step and then that step and then that step, that those tasks will get automated out first. So like if you are a customer service person and you're answering the phone, like they can automate some of the responses. That's gone. Um, if there's so many applications for AI, but I think when it comes to the BA role, we will be able to benefit from the AI, but still retain our role, I believe, because we could then use AI tool and come up with our own analysis over it to make our work be done faster and more efficient. But I don't see it replacing us right away. Eventually, it probably will, but I don't see it as something to be afraid of right now. So that's what I think about AI. All right, Jeff, go ahead. Sorry. Did you have a follow up, Valerie? Yeah, yeah. All right. Moving to Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff. So the question is that Jeff was looking at some of the like side hustles for BA, and he saw some two websites that I had mentioned, and he didn't see any BA work. So the website I mentioned, if I remember, was Fiverr, Fiverr, and I mentioned Upwork. Were those two ones that you're talking about, Jeff? Yeah, so one of the things is that people don't even know about the BA role as such in the wider, or the wider society, right? A lot of people would think about developers and project managers or even sometimes they think of product managers, but they don't always know that what they need is a BA. So they may be asking for a BA, but the title doesn't say BA. But I've found that on Upwork, especially, there's a lot of freelance work for BA. So if you're just looking for something contract, like a 3 months or something, like just to get you occupied, I've really found that you could use Upwork for a lot of these things, um, in the BA space. So you probably have to and log in and create a profile. But there are people on here who are making a good amount of money just doing. But the thing is, you have to bid for projects, right? They have to choose you, and it's difficult to get chosen if you're like the first, right? You don't have any reviews yet, and so on. But I've seen people break in. Maybe you have to take a job, maybe a free, just to get a review first, and then you do something else so you can, build up your reviews. But I've seen people get jobs as BAs. You might just have to, you're not going to find a topic or a section or a category called business analyst, right? But you just have to type it in and see if you see any results from it, or you could even type in product owner and see the results. Sometimes people confuse BA with product owner, or you could just say requirements and see what the results say. So sometimes the label doesn't say BA, but there's definitely a lot of options there, for BA work. And on Fiverr, you can create your own. You don't have to look for see what's out there. You can create your own task. You could say, I can write, BRDs for you, like a 10 page or 15 page, and you make that into like a task that you can offer. The problem is, because everything is different, right? Every project is different. It's hard to put a price on it because you don't know what they're going to come to you with. So you might just leave it open and say, hey, we'll have to discuss it for me to know what the price is. But yeah, you can try Fiverr and Upwork. I know people who have been able to make successes as being on there. Yeah, all right. We only have 2 minutes. So I want to say thank you to everyone. Let me just quickly run to the idea board. We have an idea board that we had shared in the email. Let's see if there's anything new here. No, we talked about these topics that's here already, so that's fine. So yes, we've come to the end of our Global BA stand-up for the month of June. Thank you all for joining. I'm very happy to be able to, provide this space that you can ask questions, get answers. We'll figure out how to work with StreamYard and the meeting. Last time we were able to hear it, but this time with the StreamYard, it's difficult to hear what they're saying on the meeting and produce it live. So we'll try to figure that out for the next Global BA stand-up. But yeah, thank you guys for joining, and we're right on time. We're going to end on time today, so I'm very happy about that. And always go check out carolise.com, where there's new stuff on my events calendar. This month, I'm going to be doing some live trainings where we're going to be working on some case studies. This is particularly going to be helpful for the people who are looking for a job, where I'm going to go through some of the case studies that others have gotten in their interview and work through that on live with you guys. I'm planning on doing that on Thursdays. So you can check out my website. I'll put up the case study that I'm going to be discussing, and the link to join the meeting, because I like interactive meetings. I don't like to be doing it by myself. So you'll join the meeting like you're joining here. You can ask questions, and we share live where you can see how we work through these problems, so you can get an exposure to what are the employers asking you for in the interview, and how do you think through it and come up with the right artifact so you can land the job. We got to get this job. We're halfway into the year. If you've been in the job market since the beginning of the year, it's time to get the job. All right. So I'm going to help you guys with that. And if you already have a role as a BA, if you need help with managing that, I also have consultations that you can book. So lots of support and lots of resources for you to excel and learn as a BA. You're learning from me, world #1 business analyst. So thank you guys. I'm very happy that you're here, and we look forward to doing this again next month. Thank you. Take care. Bye, everybody.